So thank you for this opportunity. And it is a learning exercise for me, which I would value learning because I would just share with my friends. I've recently been appointed as a state nodal officer of NPCB. And I'm the odd man out here because I don't have access to any vision centers, unlike my friends. So for me, any outstation patient which comes to my hospital has to be handled differently. Thank you, Dr. Madhu, for this opportunity. So I will have a session, question answer type of a presentation. Why do outstation patients come to tertiary hospitals? Primarily, they are from a rural divide. Because of lack of facilities and expertise at the place of residence, treatment costs there. Please remember this picture. These patients already are handicapped when they come here because of their issues at home place. Second question is, how do they present when they come? Most studies say that blindness is very high. A recent study at our center showed that 17% patients were blind at presentation and 84% due to glaucoma. Delay in seeking treatment because of travel, cost, and loss of work. Because it's silent, they present late. And I think this issue of Safed Motia and Kala Motia, this terminology caused a lot of confusion because many patients, when they come to us, they'll say, okay, put a lens in and we will start seeing. They do not realize that it is glaucoma and not cataract. This previous slide was validated by these studies from the Arvind group. 92% patients who were referred for glaucoma by another doctor, only 8% sought treatment directly for glaucoma screening. And the factors associated with late presentation were mostly residing in rural areas, in addition to other factors not related to our presentation. Now, the travel and dependence. Patients had, on an average, to travel 2.4 hours to reach the tertiary hospital. 70% used public transport. 88% required another person to accompany. So you have to put all these three aspects into position for one patient to come to, let's say, my center, Guru Nanak Eye Center. He or she has to travel long distance. How will they come? And they will have somebody else. So they have to ensure that one person comes with them. Third question, what is the patient prototype who come to us in a tertiary hospital? It's a huge queue. So how do we prioritize? How do we triage is a big issue. I'll come to that later. Whenever they come, as you saw from the previous study, most of them are referred here. Okay, they do not come on their own. Now the referral letter, most of the referral letters lacks accuracy. IOP is not documented in 61%. Gonioscopy, forget it. 95% has no documentation, and I don't think they do it either. Disc is not documented in 81%. Visual field 95%, and 37% who were referred as OAG were found to have ACG. And pseudoexfoliation was missed in 62% as per this study. This study was quoted by Shivani also, that awareness of glaucoma in a rural population is extremely poor. Only 0.33% were aware, and 56% of these aware patients also did not realize that it was an irreversible disease. So what Dr. Madhu was showing, the ASHA and the MLOP workers, if they can be sensitized, this aspect of awareness can definitely improve. Fourth question, what are the special problems? Now, not only the follow-up is different because of travel, cost, and the jobs of the attendant, the adherence issues. Many patients, 50% have problems, 16% non-compliance in the best of scenarios, 35%, I would say more, have poor installation. They are dependent on the caregiver. They have comorbidities, arthritis, tremors. This was a patient who came to my OPD. This was a mother-in-law of this patient who carried her because she had arthritis. And he says, nobody wants to take care of her. Her sons had given up on her and she can't see, ma'am, please take care of her. And she had glaucoma, not cataract. We would think that older patients have a problem. But this study showed that actually younger people have more problems because they need a longer follow-up. Travel, obviously problems are there. How do they travel to this area? So having covered their problems, let's come to the examination sequence, which I will do in my tertiary hospital. I would go the sequence which I always do: visual acuity, tonometry, gonioscopy, disc evaluation, field testing, and dilated fundus examination. Sometimes you do the reverse because visual field you want to do in the same sitting. You don't want to make the patients wait. And whenever you have a dilated visual field examination, the MD effect does decrease. PST effect is borderline, is also affected. However, having said that, for screening, it will be perfectly acceptable to do a dilated visual field examination. Only for follow-up, you may still think about it. The next thing I always stress on my residents is when you do the optic nerve head examination and the RNFL examination, just draw a picture. You don't need a fundus camera. You don't need a photograph. You just need this red, green color pencils and drawing. And this drawing has to go back with the patient and explain to the patient that this is what your glaucoma optic nerve problem is. It's an optic nerve disease. And whenever you show to anybody else in your district, just show this. And that works. And all my residents now carry these color pencils. It's a mandatory thing in my hospital to do that. So just document. Perimetry, try to make it accurate the first time because such patients really do not understand how to do perimetry. It's very difficult to perimetry. Try to do it yourself. It's difficult. So a demo is given always to these patients. They are asked to blink multiple times and they are told just hold the mouse if you have a problem. So this is re-emphasized, and of course the refractive correction has to be given. Once you establish the diagnosis and confirmed it, if it is PACG or PACS also and the patient is from far off, I would do the iodotomy the same day. And keeping in mind the fellow eye, try to treat the fellow eye also if the patient gives consent. We all know that laser iodotomy does not open angle in all cases, and 1/5 still have residual angle closure. So long-term follow-up is required. Here, the last bioconductivity is an issue for patients from outstation. So we always emphasize with these patients, don't forget to follow up. The problem is distance and the cost. So link up to the local vision center, the ophthalmologist. I call up my friends or give the number of the local person. If they want to come back again to your center for an appointment, pre-book the appointment. Let them not wait and let them not, because they don't have the connectivity. So give them an appointment beforehand. Take their contact number and take the contact number of the attendant. Now this is ID. You set the target pressure. Okay, you have the prior progression, risk factors, everything. In a outstation patient, this is a utopian concept. You can't really do it. Here, I would say the chop and drop policy, where management of glaucoma in developing countries, surgery is the first line of treatment. So wherever you feel that the target pressure is not going to be reached, you do not wait. You would prefer to do a chop policy because ultimately this may save vision for them. And this has been again echoed by the study from RPC, where they have said that trabeculectomy can be done with a reality check. We have devised this format for our glaucoma patients at the OPD level. And we have told our residents, we don't have a system where we have a referral system within the same day. Unfortunately, I'm trying for that, but that may not happen. But for one-night patients and those with high pressure and those from outstation patients, we try to tell the residents to refer to us within the same week. We have one glaucoma clinic per week. So that is the triaging or the prioritization for these patients. Whenever these patients come to us in the clinic, my resident asks them to put a drop. It's a sham drop. You ask them to put a drop if they are given the medications. And again, if they have poor technique of putting drop, which is very common, you show them the importance of putting drops and how to put drops. SLT or ALT can work in these patients because it can control the IOP and reduce the dependence on drops for a long time. However, again, this needs follow-up. Early cataract surgery if lens vault is high, if early cataract. Trabeculectomy, of course, as I said, wherever there's a patient issue of compliance and the cost and travel. Whenever they have more medications, there is confusion that this patient doesn't know which drop he's going to put. So these patients obviously go for a surgery. My answers to the first question, why do outstation patients come to tertiary hospitals? One reason is lack of awareness in the health professionals of the silent disease. So how do I take care of it is I empower doctors of first contact, which is my MBBS students, the Indian medical graduate. Every year we have programs for them where they are told about the glaucoma. Specifically, we have a theme each year. Now, most of my residents, they come for the Viva. If I ask them steroid drops, side effects, first answer is ma'am glaucoma, because it's been drilled into their heads. Teleglaucoma has been so beautifully covered by my previous speaker, but wherever possible, this COVID epidemic has taught us that telemedicine may really work very well in most situations. And this is our paper which has linked iris clues, and this we can use with artificial intelligence in teleophthalmology. This is the India we should see, but this is the India which we very often have for the rural patients with these travel issues, with these problems. So keeping that in mind, I think this webinar was very important. This IC was very relevant, and I hope to understand more of these issues from my friends. Thank you, Dr. Madhu.